From the dog standpoint, I think believing in them. We put dogs in their hands when they were 6 years old and said, here you go. Gave them their own dog and train it. Society tells you you're too young and you can't. I'm telling you, you can. All four of the kids had their own dog when they were 6 and competed their own dogs when they were 6. His first trial, he ran a dog and wouldn't let me shoot for him because I didn't shoot good enough.
My parents did a great job with all of us kids. They made us work for everything that we had. We weren't really given anything. We always had the choice of what we wanted to do, but whatever it was, we were going to work for it. We were feeding dogs, scooping poop. We were doing all that. They were giving us an allowance. And
if we wanted a phone, we had to take care of the dog. And we're very grateful for how they raised us. It made what we worked for worth so much more, and we respected what we did, and we respected each other because we were working together. We respected Mom and Dad more because we realized how hard they were working to provide us with what we needed.
A lot of times it's not necessarily what you do, it's when you do it.
And it's how you do it. It's learning how to control your emotions and keeping yourself calm, because then the dogs will stay calm and not getting frustrated or angry. Rick Smith would say you can't do anything wrong unless you do it out of anger.
Before the doors open at Pheasant Fest on Sunday morning with Three Arrows Hunting Preserve, and I'm going to go around the table. It's like a pop quiz, and me and names don't mix. We have Diane, we have Ben,
Correct.
Elizabeth, and James,
Yes,
right?
sir.
Did I get all that right?
You did.
All right, I passed the test. So when somebody such as Rick Smith comes up to me and says, you got to talk to this family and get them on for an episode, you don't really ask a lot of questions, right? And so he pretty much just told me you got to talk to him, especially James. He hinted at you, so we're definitely I'm interested in this. But ultimately, I didn't even pick his brain on why we're talking or what we're talking about. So I'm interested in this backstory of what Three Arrows Hunting Preserve is, and I'm assuming that starts with you, Ben.
Yeah. It started out really 12 years old wanting to breed dogs. And we got married in 93, started breeding dogs, Ben's Brittany's. And needed a place to train them, bought 50 acres and bought some more and had to do something with it. So we started a hunting preserve.
Well, Ben's Brittany's. What made you want to do Ben's Brittany's? Do you remember the spark that said you wanted to breed dogs?
So the farm we live on, my grandpa bought, and then my dad bought from him. And Dad got the first Brittany there in 1957. So there's been a Brittany on this farm since 1957.
That's cool.
So we're 3 generations in.
All right.
Into Brittany's.
And so it's just been Brittany's the whole time.
Just Brittany's.
That's what's captured you, huh?
Yeah.
And 50 acres. Now, Rick did say something that you guys are not just bird dogs or guides and hunting and all that, but y'all also farm the land as well.
We did. The land we were farming is now in CRP.
Okay.
And we play on it.
All right. I can't blame you on that one. So the CRP program, when did that enter the program?
That's probably Dad 10 years ago, maybe.
10 years ago.
And it's just the ground we were going to play on was turned into the preserve. And so if we wanted a spot to use personally to deer hunt and work dogs, we needed a place to do that. So we went the CRP route.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So your farm was 3 generations to you.
Yep.
And so James and Elizabeth, I'm assuming y'all are the 4th generation.
Yep. And we have 2 more kids at home.
Yes, we do.
2 more kids.
Elizabeth is a twin.
Okay.
So she's got a twin sister, Haley.
Okay.
And then there's Christian, and James is the baby.
All right. So full family. So y'all have plenty of chores to take care of.
Well,
they just needed more hands on deck.
That's right.
That's what Christian's doing right now. We've got a female ready to have pups.
Oh, okay.
And so he kind of volunteered to stay back and
So he volunteered. He didn't pull the short straw.
Well, yeah.
He did. Christian's the type of person he's willing to help in any way he can.
Gotcha. And also not avoiding the giant room of a million people coming to shake hands probably didn't appeal to him. Yeah. I know that feeling well. Well, this is really interesting because unfortunately in today's day and age, you don't come across too many multi-generational farmsteads anymore. And the fact that not only are you still running it in the 3rd generation, you're passing it on, and I've known James literally for half an hour, between yesterday and today, but he's already leaving his impression. Myself, Jeremy Moore was over there bragging about him. Obviously, Rick thinks highly of you, so y'all are doing something right here with the family involvement. Walk me through kind of what you're envisioning when you're setting up Ben's Brittany's, and kind of how it's turned into this full-on family operation.
Um, I guess it started out with a love for the breed, and then
Wanting it to get better
yeah,
through our training. And that's when we started going to the Rick Smith seminars.
I learned early on that the dogs were better than I was,
Yeah.
and so wanting to learn more. I think our first seminar we went to, James wasn't even born, and we're bouncing around a little camper with three kids, three and under, and going to seminars. And actually, you were pregnant with James at the second or third seminar we went to,
Yeah.
so he attended his first seminar before he was born.
I got you. So he pretty much came into the world of the Smiths, and
He
so
he
you know
did.
nothing else in the dog
And
training world besides the Smith,
That's
right?
that's right. That's
Good.
that's what I grew up in. I was extremely blessed to have Rick as a mentor to me since I was a baby. And with my dad in the preserve, it grew a love for it for me, and haven't looked back.
Hmm.
Haven't thought about really doing anything else. It just clicked.
Yeah. So let's backtrack. When did the Smiths come into your life? You started the Brittany's. Were you just looking for a better way to train dogs? Did you try
Yeah,
other ways and it just didn't fit?
yeah, I was, like I said, the dogs were better than I was, and had been doing a lot of research and trying to find a program that was kind of plug and play that made sense. And Rick actually at the first Feds Forever I went to challenged me. He said, if you come and after the first day you don't think you've learned anything, I'll give you your money back.
Yeah.
And talked to me at noon the first day. Is like, am I getting your money back? I'm like, no, I was already overwhelmed.
Yeah.
So
Well, what's interesting to me is, you talk to Rick, and he's even open about how the way he goes about doing things has changed and evolved over the decades and generations, as it should, as we always should be trying to get better. Coming from your perspective as somebody that's been going to these seminars for so long, what's it been like watching that progression, and what impact has that left on you to watch somebody like Rick Smith evolve over time? That's got to keep you hungry for and curious as
yeah,
well.
so in the training world, you find there are trainers that are cut and dried. It's this way. It's the only way. And then there's trainers that are, if we can improve our game, we want to. And I think that's probably one of the biggest things I learned from Rick is be open to new ideas. Don't just close the door on them. Listen to them. See if you can take a tool out of
Hmm.
that toolbox and use it.
Absolutely.
So,
And after James came back from Ronnie and Susanna's after the advanced course,
so,
he brought so much new information to share with us too.
Okay.
so, and I just want to put a plug in for Elizabeth, who's sitting here quiet, but she also has been a professional trainer
Okay.
working in the lab world.
The labs.
Mhm.
So
So,
so you got bit by the dog bug, but maybe not the Brittany's. You just wanted to go carve out your own path.
Well, a little bit of both. I bought a cocker, and so I wanted to what I was doing, regardless of if I was doing it right or wrong with the Hunt Smith method. I was just looking for something different and kind of expanding my toolbox. And Rick McConico at Old Oak Kennels, he came down to guide a hunt, and I was 16. I just got my license, and Dad comes in. He's like, "Hey, I think I got you a job this summer." And it was just supposed to be throwing birds for the AKC hunt test, that training type of thing. And I started taking care of the dogs, feeding them, airing them, and then throwing birds. And then it slowly just, Rick McConico just started giving me dogs and more responsibility. And then 6 summers later, and I was starting to run junior hunt test dogs. And
That's awesome.
yeah.
paying for college.
Right. I love that. So I have kind of a two-part question, but it's kind of the same question from two different perspectives. I want to hear the parents' perspectives on how you get your kids interested in the dogs without burning them out, interested in the homestead and just the lifestyle. It's a tricky balance to where we want the kids to be involved in what we care about and love to do, but you also want them to kind of carve their own path and interest. And then I want to hear y'all's perspective coming as the kids what it was that stuck with you guys, if y'all can remember that and figure out, really what kind of hooked y'all and caused it to stick, because so many kids get into it now and they kind of leave or they're burned out by the time it comes to light. So let's start with the parents' perspectives.
Well, we started them young. I mean, honestly, one of our first Britneys, we had the girls out in the kennel in a double stroller, and there was one puppy that chose them. I mean, they were playing with puppies when they were 18 months old. Or
before they could walk.
yeah, I mean, they were there from the very beginning through the whole process. We've got stories of the kids saying, well, we always say, well, James picks up the dog poop better than you guys, but he's out there picking it up with his fingers. you
Taste,
know, I mean,
testing the dog food.
Oh yeah.
Just making sure that Purina was pure,
That's
right?
right. That's right. Yeah.
and we wanted the kids outside. I'm a teacher, so I don't like a lot of technology when my kids are little. So I wanted them outside playing.
Love it.
Yeah, get them in the grass running.
Hmm.
from,
Just
from the dog standpoint, I think believing in them.
yeah.
We put dogs in their hands when they were 6 years old and said, "Here you go." Gave them their own dog. You train it.
Well, you made us earn them.
Well, yeah. They worked for them.
That's right.
Well, and
We
that,
could give it
that
up.
that's perfect
But-
right there.
Uh-huh.
Like, how much responsibility do you put on them? How soon? How much? Because it's a fine line. If you don't put responsibility on the kids, they don't have skin in the game. But if you just kind of let them come and go as they want, it's like they don't really learn the discipline and dedication that goes with it.
I told them that society tells you you're too young and you can't. I'm telling you you can.
Mm.
And then, I mean, as a parent, they do their best, but sometimes maybe you're out there doing things just a little different after they're gone, or, in the house. But really, they were great. They had a passion for the dogs. I don't know if they had a choice. But all four of the kids had their own dog when they were 6 and competed their own dogs when they were 6.
Really?
His first trial, he ran a dog and wouldn't let me shoot for him because I didn't shoot good enough.
That's right. Yeah. My parents did a great job with all of us kids. They made us work for everything that we had. We weren't really given anything. We always had the choice of what we wanted to do, but whatever it was, we were going to work for it. So we were feeding dogs, scooping poop. We were doing all that, and they were giving us an allowance, and most
Yeah,
of us
to
put
get our
that.
phones.
Yeah,
If we
to
wanted
get-
a phone, we had to take care of the dogs.
Yep.
Mm.
And,
And,
at the time, I think we maybe thought it was unfair, but I think now that we're young
Mhm.
adults, I don't know if we're quite adults yet, but
There's still
I think
hope.
we look
Close
back
enough.
and we're very grateful for how they raised us
Yeah.
and how it made what we worked for worth so much more, and we respected what we did and we respected each other because we were working together, and respected mom and dad more because we realized how hard they were working to provide us with what we needed. And so I think that was
So you guys had the incentives. If you wanted the phones, if y'all wanted certain access to certain things, you knew that you had to do that. But were there also consequences for not following up and doing things?
yeah, we wouldn't like if we didn't my twin sister and I, we didn't always get along the best. And we weren't allowed to fight around the dogs because the dogs can pick up that energy. And so if we couldn't figure it out and get the chores done, well, then we didn't get our phones. And like they gave us gas money to drive to school, but they figured out how much it would cost to drive to school for like a week, and then they would give us that money. So if we wanted to go other places, our consequence of not working or earning money was that we didn't get to go because we had to earn the money ourselves. And obviously they were fair. If we needed something, they would. But if we wanted to go watch a movie and we didn't have gas money, well, that was kind of our fault.
SOL.
They,
Hmm.
Yeah,
they,
right.
they were young. They got an allowance to buy their school clothes.
I love it.
You got to buy this many shirts, this many pants. This is your money.
So, I mean, they're getting everything that they need and really want as a kid. I mean, obviously, kids and teenagers, we all want everything, right? But everything that we need and realistically could want. but they have to earn it, right? And
Yeah.
that's the main thing. Is somebody listening to this is I'm sure this extended beyond just the dogs, right? This isn't just
Hmm.
dog chores. You're living on a property and a farm, and I've got some small, small property down in Tennessee, and I'm understanding how much work goes into it. And my little girl's just 3 years old right now, and I'm already like, here in a few years, like what am I going to be able to like task her to do? And so
Hmm.
I'm
So,
trying to find that little
so
balance.
as a father of girls, I'm going to tell you get them a dog and get them successful training it, and it will build their confidence huge.
Okay.
When they start seeing they can impact that dog's behavior and they start having success for it, they'll just, hey, if I can do this with a dog, I can do anything.
That they can do this with their future husband.
Where's Caleb? We got to be careful here. So,
That's awesome. So James, like, obviously you're trialing at 6. You came out of the womb at a Rick Smith seminar,
yep.
and you're trialing at 6. Man, kind of go through the progression and where you're at now, because as I understand it, you're not now training dogs. You're
Hmm.
also guiding, if I understand correctly. Kind of walk me through, the progression and timeline of yours, where she went or the lab route and the flush and dog route.
Yeah.
Where are we at with you?
Well, I got my first Llewellyn setter when I was 7, and I ran her, and my dad used to host those Llewellyn trials, and I ran my first dog in that, and we won it, and then the next year I ran her again, and we won it, and then just through the years, Rick seminars and my dad bringing in dogs to work, I got a lot of experience that way, and then the summer after my junior year. I told my dad, this is something that I think I want to do, professionally or for a living. And that year, Rick was doing the seminar. My dad mentioned it to me, and Rick said, "Well, um, Ronnie and Susanna have an apprenticeship program down there. I'd like
Mhm.
to pay for him, give him a scholarship to go down there and do that with them."
Cool.
So halfway through my junior year, I didn't drop out, but I took all online classes and finished them up in about 2 months, and went down and spent 3 months with Ronnie and Susanna, really learning the whole system and how it's evolved even from Rick to them. And yeah, I came back from that and I just had a whole bunch of knowledge that I hadn't had before, and it really took me to the next level.
Mm.
Um, and so, after that year or that class, I took in my first class of training dogs. I took in 24 dogs throughout that first summer, and you know, obviously there's learning curves. It wasn't my dogs weren't as good as Ronnie and Susanna's. I'm hoping I get there one day, but I've
As
got
we
a
all
lot of
do.
learning to do. Yeah, yep,
Yeah.
absolutely. And then after that first summer, it was at a Rick seminar. I met the guy that I'm working for now, and basically I told him, I was like, he lives down in Texas, and I told him, I don't want to train in the cold, and asked him if he'd have any room for me, and he said, yeah, absolutely, come on down. And so now I'm working for him. He's a trainer and a guide. He's hired privately, and I'm there to give him a hand and do pretty much anything he needs help with. So.
Okay. And I'm assuming he's a Smith method trainer as well.
Yes and no.
Okay.
He started out under Carl Gunzer. His name's Clayton
Mm.
Taylor. He started out under Carl Gunzer and started out in the lab world, the retriever world, and down in 2015, 2016, when the quail really took off down in Texas, he got into bird dogs, and that's how it kind of took off for him. And man, he's a great guy. He's a really good with dogs, and he's brought a lot of knowledge to me, different from what I learned from Rick and Ronnie. Just adding like we're talking about tools in the toolbox, man. He's just
Hmm.
adding to it, and
Hmm.
it's awesome being able to take away from that. So
I can only imagine being down there in Texas during that quail boom. I mean, I've heard some of the legends down there. I mean, it's just like you don't even have to worry about training too much. Just go turn the dogs loose and run on quail.
yep,
Pretty
yep.
much, it's a different world. What was it like to where you guys are bouncing around seminar to seminar? You're on the farm with the Brittnys, and then all of a sudden you kind of get thrown into a day-to-day operation at Ronnie and Susanna's. Talk to me about just the kind of day-to-day, or just the first impression, like the impact that something like that has. I gotta imagine it really just multiplied and I don't know, just exponentially sped up your learning curve.
It sure did. Well, junior in high school, I was in sports and I was, having to go to school and all that, and going down there and doing it every day, it gave me an appreciation for what my dad did, because it's not a 2 hour after school deal. You're in there every day doing it, and all day long, and man, I loved it. It was great. It was a bit of a culture shock. I lived at home, and then all of a sudden I'm living alone, and it was quite an experience. But
Learn to cook for yourself.
that's right, learning to cook, keep everything clean, and it was really a great experience. Um,
His professionalism really changed. I mean, button-up shirt before that, now it'd have been a
No.
t-shirt. Just
yeah,
just
yeah,
the whole professionalism and how he handles himself and his
Standing a little
vocabulary.
tall, firmer
Yeah, just more
handshake, look you in
confident in
the eye.
himself. And,
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
but
They really put that in. They run a great operation there, and I encourage anybody who gets a chance to go down there and learn from them to do it. I
you know,
mean, you just learn so much so quick, especially when you have a background with Rick, or the apprentice that I was there with learning. She came from well, I think she had a cattle background, and so she knew animal behavior, but dogs were new to her, and by the time she left that program, she's really great with dogs now. She actually, I think Ronnie and Susanna hired her on for a little bit, and yeah, she's really great with dogs now. So, they're great teachers, and you learn just a ton from it.
Yeah,
So,
and I'm sure just by being thrown into the pool like that, there's probably 5 million lessons. But is there one that stands out to you the most from just that day-to-day operation under Ronnie's guidance?
one that stands out to me the most, I guess, can you elaborate on that question a little
Just
bit?
the main lesson. If you came away just the biggest eye-opening lesson and experience that you had down there. I mean, it could be the day-to-day operation, the needs of the dogs, or just
Yeah.
some kind of little training trick or something.
Right, right. Just the commitment that it takes. If they use bark collars down there, and if it's 3 in the morning and you hear thunder, you're down at the kennel taking those bark collars off,
Oh,
making
okay.
sure that lightning or whatever doesn't set them off on the dogs. And so it's just the commitment involved. It's not a 9 to 5 job. It's an all day, all year round job, and you got to have a love for it to do it. That was
Yeah.
that was what was really instilled to me there, is you have to have a love for it to do it professionally and full time. And they've got a love for it. They're always looking for the next new thing. They're trying to always improve, and that's the other thing that really stuck out to me is if you're not looking to improve, you're not doing anything. The goal should be to be able to do it better.
Exactly.
Better for the dogs every day.
Nice.
Rick
So
Rick makes a comment real often, and if you correspond with him much, he always ends with "never settle," and that's kind of what Ronnie and Susanna live. Their dogs are really good, but they're not going to settle with really good. They're going to see if they can do better.
Yeah. We always talk about how I don't really believe the perfect dog is out there, but I'm still trying to find the perfect dog. Right.
Delmer told me once, you never brag about your dog till after it passes, because if you do, the next time you go out, it's going to fall apart.
Oh, absolutely, and that's the
So-
beautiful thing about competition, and I've been talking about that here lately on the podcast a lot. Is you can talk all the noise you want about your dogs
Yep.
off the line. You
better
got
do-
you got to send them. You go to the breakaway, and I mean, there's a
You-
time and a place where there's a proving ground, and they got to back it up. So you can talk everything you want,
Talk soft
but the
till the
dogs
end
are
of
out
the
there.
day.
Yeah. Elizabeth, what about your training program? Did you go under an apprenticeship? Are you still in the Smith method, or did you just kind of carve your own
Um,
path?
I got my first Brittany when I was 7. And then I learned to train her using the Huntsmith method and helped Dad a lot with training and just getting to know dogs and doing things like that. And then when I turned 16, I needed a job that, like, I could work for Dad, but I wanted, he had 3 other kids that wanted to work for him too. And Rick McConico offered me a job, and it was like, okay, well, we'll just go see how it goes. And that growing up in a pointing household, it was always like, oh, those labs, like we don't like. Why would you want a
Hey,
flusher?
hey,
Why would
hey,
you want a lab?
we like well-behaved dogs.
But I think working for Rick McConico, it just opened my eyes to a whole. It's a different world. And I think James would agree he likes to stick with the pointers. I mean, he's great with flushers too, but he would probably like to stick to pointers. And it's not really even comparable. I think now that I've trained a pointer using the Hunt Smith method, and I trained a lot of obedience, I've trained hunt test dogs, I've done a little bit of handling. I trained my cocker. I think if I were to get a pointer, I would use some of each method. And I think Rick McConico is the one that had told me, he's like, the more tools you have in your toolbox, the more problems you can fix. And each dog is different. Each dog is going to do the same things, but they're all different too. They all have different personalities. And I think just learning all of the personalities and then how to adapt and fit each dog's needs, I think was the biggest lesson I learned there.
I think Rick McConico, one of the first things he noticed with you around dogs was you could read a dog.
Yeah.
Understanding what that dog is feeling and thinking, and and that's the basis to any training.
Right.
If you don't understand what the dog's communicating to you, it doesn't matter what you try to train.
Right. Yeah, I mean, again, I repeat myself on this podcast on a number of topics, but this one especially, it's like there's a million methods out there. And, each one, especially the ones such as the Smith and numerous others that have been around forever, you can't go wrong with it, right? They've been around, they're proven. You can't poke holes in it. There might be different preferences, but the common threads amongst all of them, and the main one is reading the dog, know the dog in front of you, and then you're gonna learn over time intuitively how to respond to that dog and what it's telling you.
A lot of times it's not necessarily what you do, it's when you do it. So if you know something needs to happen when a dog's doing something, that's the biggest thing is
Right.
And it's how you do it. It's learning how to control your emotions and keeping yourself calm, because then the dogs will stay calm and not getting frustrated or angry, because like Rick Smith would say, you can't do anything wrong unless you do it out of anger. And so just learning how to keep your composure so that your dog keeps their composure.
Yeah.
I think raising pups when their dogs were having puppies. There were times where when they were young, it'd be like they'd be getting nervous, and I'd be like, "All right, you have to step out because mom's not going to relax and take care of these and have the puppies with you getting nervous." And they didn't like it, but they learned.
The training mindset is
Yeah.
so important because what you talked about, the dogs will pick up on that energy. If you're fighting with your sisters or siblings, the dogs will pick up on that. And then, imagine you get in a fight with your sister, and then the dogs are anxious because of the energy, and then you're mad and angry, and then you're going into a training scenario, and then it's just a recipe for disaster. It's not going to get anywhere
Yep.
good on that. Diane, I want to hear your perspective as you're watching all this. We hear Ben's Brittany's and everything. The kids are going here. What's mom thinking about all this with everybody going into the dog training aspect here and there? And now James is in Texas, and
Don't kid yourself. She's competed dogs herself.
I wanted to get into that.
I did compete for a little while. No, it's exciting to see the kids grow up with the dogs and the love for them. Having James down in Texas, that was a little rough. I mean, he's the last one leaving home, so it was the empty nest. But I have to remind him, hey, call us, text him, like
Let
hey,
us
to
know
what's-
you're alive.
Yeah.
That's tough. I had to go through that learning curve too. You're busy just trying to learn how to cook, and
Oh,
it's like-
exactly, man.
dropping a line to mom, you forget that real quick.
Right. Until you need something,
Yeah.
you're like, Mom, how do I cook this? Or
Yeah,
Right.
just sent him a goulash recipe
Oh,
last
there you
week.
go.
Don't want to step on Diane's toes here, but just knowing the dog people, the world of the dog people, and how genuine they are. Rick and Ronnie and Clayton and Rick McConico. There's a certain trust you have in that. If they are good with dogs and they have a passion for that, they're going to take care of your kid.
Right.
Well, and that's what I was just going to say is like when Elizabeth was going to Rick's, he wanted to make sure she had, the right shoes and the clothing. And he gave her extra money. Go out and buy this. You need this.
We were a
you
little
know,
worried he
and-
was going to adopt her.
Yeah. And with James, I know Clayton well enough to know that, at 19, he's not going to let him go out and go drinking and party and stuff like that. He's going to keep him busy and responsible.
Accountable.
Yeah, and I just, there's that community of people that just really respect and care for each other in this dog world.
Yeah.
And so seeing these guys out going doing that, I was pretty comfortable with it.
I mean, we didn't hesitate. He's 17. He's getting in the car driving to Oklahoma on his own. We didn't hesitate knowing where he was going.
Yeah.
The drive down there, we were a little concerned, but
Right.
we knew once he got down there, he's gonna be taken care of.
And that's so good to hear. It's like, again, back to, unfortunately, in this world, you don't see multi generational farmsteads, but also there's so much divisiveness and polarization in the world nowadays, to where when you get into the bird dog community and you start finding the like minded people with the shared interests and that you trust, it really is, you're kind of raising a community together, right?
Yes, you are.
If you can trust them with your dog, you can definitely trust them with your kids, and it goes to show. I mean, some of the best people I've met in my entire life are in the dogs. I mean, it's just, you don't meet some of these people. There's salt of the earth
Yeah.
outside of the dog community, and that's why it's so refreshing to see families such as y'all that are just doing it for quote unquote the right reasons.
Hmm.
As a dad, one of the things I'm most proud of is that I've got 4 adult kids that will always be productive citizens.
Yes.
Whatever happens, I know they will be a productive citizen. They're not going to need to be taken care of. They'll make
Yeah.
it work, whatever.
I hear my folks say the same thing. We didn't grow up on a farm or anything like that, but my parents, when they're bragging about their kids, and me and my brother and sister were all just sitting there kind of awkward, and they're just like, harping love on us. They say the same thing. My mom especially, is that they appreciate that, some people don't even, it's sad to say this, don't even like their kids, it seems like, right? And my parents are like, no, we actually like our kids. And the fact that they know that all 3 kids are successful with families of their own.
So
And
that's why our kids went in a camper with us to all the seminars and stuff. We didn't want to leave them behind. And bless Diane's heart, she put her career on hold so she could be with our kids and she did daycare to help pay for things, but she did not go out of our home for work until the kids were in school. She put herself on hold for that, and
Raised my kids.
she probably doesn't
Yeah.
get the pats on the back and appreciation for it that she deserves, but she gave up her career for
I mean, every
Right.
time we were out in the field working, we had clean clothes because mom was inside doing laundry. And then, we'd come in, dad and James, uh, when they're home, they come in for supper time and mom's got supper ready for them. And just like little things like that don't really go with much thanks. But she always was in the background, just happy to make sure everything was done for us.
unless she was running her dog against
Yeah.
you. Then
I
she's
do have
out
a
to win.
competitive spirit.
I'll clip this section of the podcast out, and you guys can just play it for her on Thanksgiving.
There we go. Yeah.
So,
Repeat.
I want to talk about the impact of the land. You talk about 3 generations on the farm, 4th generation now. The stewardship of our lands.
Oh boy.
That goes a long way. It's deeper for some than others. I want to talk to you about what the land and what that farm has truly meant to you, and how that's impacted how you manage it. Now
you're
it's
gonna make me
enrolled
cry.
in CRP. But it's important. We talk about we train dogs, but we're training bird dogs. The birds on the landscape. All of it's all a piece of the puzzle. And I can tell that you managed it a certain way with a certain level of passion. I want to hear about it.
I mean, in our area of the country, everything's getting farmed. Their fence lines are getting taken out, waterways are getting taken out. The piece of ground that we started to preserve on is some really prime farm ground, and we're yanking out tile and we're planting trees and we had people stop and say, your grandpa would be rolling over in his grave. He farmed this ground. He wouldn't want this, and that kind of hurt for a little bit. And then I stopped to think that my grandpa was born and raised in Denmark, and he was one of 10 kids, and he came to America for a dream. And he was very much the kind of guy that would be, if you have a dream, chase it and don't quit on it. So with me doing this, with the kids doing what they're doing, he would embrace it. He would be, chase it, but don't quit. So the funny part about that whole story is that same farmer a year later came to ask if he could hunt on it, and that was
Did you
before.
tell him that your grandfather would be upset with him?
No, actually, and that was before it was in a preserve. Um, I looked at him. I said, "You can't. Your grandson can."
Ah, there we go.
So
Did the grandson go
we
hunt it?
did, yeah,
And
yeah.
they have a good time,
Oh
I'm
yeah,
assuming. Yeah.
yeah. And you know, everybody should have a passion and a dream, and you shouldn't let society tell you you can't have it.
Hmm.
But be prepared for the bumps in the road.
That's
Right.
right. I know when I was young and they were getting into that, I remember that I remember it was stressful for them making that decision. And I know they went, they prayed about it and they went to God with it and all glory goes to him
Yeah,
with that, and it actually Three Arrows is after what was First
First
Samuel
Samuel.
First Samuel 2021
Hmm.
is how we decided to name it. And yeah, you'll have to ask my dad what it says.
uh-oh, put me on the spot.
That's right.
I can paraphrase it. Basically, it's where Jonathan shot the arrows past the target to signify to David that it wasn't safe. And part of the thing was is we wanted it to be people looking out for people, and that was
Hmm.
Jonathan's way of protecting David. So it happened to be when we got approved by the county to have the preserve. That's where I was reading in my Bible.
And I remember that day, we were all at the Whitmire County
Yep, yep.
office,
Yeah.
and
We
the
took
whole
all the kids.
family, we were all there, and I don't think we fully grasped what was happening at
Mm-mm.
the time, but I mean, we just thought it was the coolest thing because they got approved, and then we had news people coming and wanting to come, and we had puppies, so they came to our house, and then our puppies were on the news, and it was just like,
Yeah,
it was a,
it was in God's control the whole time,
mhm.
really, if you want to be honest, because that news reporter was there to report on something else happening and picked up on us, and we had people reaching out before we were even open
Mhm.
Hmm.
about our dogs, about our preserve, about
When
it's
it's
all.
meant to be, it's meant to be,
Yeah,
right?
I
Hmm.
was running a construction company with my dad. I'd been doing it for 20 years. I never intended on this being a full-time job. It was just going to be a hobby, and
Hmm.
took 4 years, and it overtook
Mm.
took the construction company, and I
And it took a lot of time for you to learn like when to burn, when not to burn, how
the
to plant
stewardship.
the
Yep.
best cover crops, things like that. I think we learned a lot. I mean,
Hmm.
first time they burned, I was so mad at Dad. I was
Where did
sitting
our
there
grass
crying because I
go?
thought they were ruining our land. Like they just set we worked so hard for that, and they just set our grass on fire. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, I remember that. The tears.
I love that. So, how old were you?
Yeah.
Oh, you were elementary school
Yeah.
still? Yeah, I was.
Okay. Well, and I mean, fast forward to now, I mean, we still live in an environment to where we're constantly having to educate people that fire is good on the landscape. That's
Hmm.
one of the main things that cause the conditions that we're in across the country, and it's frustrating because it's like the people that know better, we're telling them, but to your example of you just sitting there crying, it's hard for some people to just grasp that this is good, it's
Mhm.
Hmm.
regenerative, it's a good thing. It's going to come back better than ever. And
Mhm.
and then the learning curves of learning when and where and how to burn. I'm going through that with my own property now. I've done a few burns out there. I'm even kind of batting around the idea of some rotational grazing
Hmm.
and different substitutes to fire. Maybe not a replacement altogether, but
Yep.
a combination of everything. And so I'm really interested in this. And so tell me about the operation, the land. I don't even think we said where the preserve is located, did
It's
we?
Leroy, Minnesota.
Okay.
So it's south of Rochester, the Mayo Clinic, about 45 minutes.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I don't know.
So, I mean, the preserve, is it a put and take preserve? Is it
Yeah,
liberated
yeah.
birds?
So yeah, we release birds for people before they hunt. Um, we host a veterans hunt first weekend of October every year. Last year we had 60 vets come hunt
Nice.
in a day. We
Breast
third
cancer awareness hunt.
yep,
Mhm.
youth hunts. We try to we've been very blessed with it, so we try to make sure that we remember our vets, we remember the cancer people, we remember the youth is where it's at. We got to have the youth involved, and so we try to go out of our way to accommodate and work with people to get those sorts of
Yeah.
events
Mhm.
going. And
I'm always interested as coming from the perspective of the preserve owner. Obviously we're not dealing with wild birds, but in today's landscape, we have to introduce people and grow our community kind of every which way that we can. Try and bring the correct people into the fold. What kind of response have you guys seen about coming out brand new? Maybe they've never done anything like this. Are they sticking around? Are they
So,
coming back?
so people that have hunted on other preserves come to ours, and they're like, "This is
Completely different.
not what we're used to." But we developed it from a dog training perspective. We wanted to challenge the dogs. I mean, we've got some grass that's short that a dog can go out and work easily. But then if somebody wants a challenge, we've got grass that's shoulder high, and we've got good birds that fly hard. Um, they might not come back with half their birds. It's pretty realistic. You know.
Are we talking pheasant or quail or both?
Well, I mean, pheasant mostly. Quail early season. Minnesota gets a little hard
Right.
on quail in the later season. But yeah, I mean, our preserve was designed from a dog training perspective, not from a let's go make money perspective
Right.
on a preserve. The one comment I'd have to anybody thinking about a preserve is keep in mind that you're going to be hosting others hunting on the nice days when you really want to be hunting. So, and that was one of the things that I kind of had to like digest a little bit
Yeah.
because like, man, I'd really go out and the phone rings. It's like, oh, I got to go to work, you know?
I tell everybody there's a level of suck to everything that gets you
Yeah,
money,
there
right?
is,
It's
yeah.
like there's pros and cons to everything. If you're making money off of it, there is something behind the scenes that somebody's not seeing that they don't want a part of.
Exactly.
Yeah. What about the wild bird hunting? You talk about sometimes you wanted to go hunting yourself. Y'all live in Minnesota. I know that there's pheasants in Minnesota, but also rough grouse is pretty
Yeah.
dominant in Minnesota. Talk to me about the family's wild bird adventures.
That would be those guys.
Okay.
Honestly, since I started Preserve, I probably haven't hunted 5 times off of our own property.
Hmm.
We are fortunate that that other piece of ground we have, a CRP, is close. So a lot of our birds that are released that don't get shot migrate over there.
Ah, there we go.
And then it's pretty much real hunting over there.
Nice.
So,
Yeah, I guess my dad's a little bit jealous. He never really got to do the whole wild bird hunting thing, and up until year and a half ago, being in school and sports and all, I really didn't get to either. But this last couple years, I've been able to go out to Fort Pierre, o- over there at the grasslands and hunt prairie chickens there, and getting to be on the wild quail down in Texas. Man, it's really, I mean, there's nothing like it. Um,
Have you gotten into the scalies down there too?
we haven't yet, but I'm sure we will at some point, probably next season. But yeah, it's just awesome. That it's just another level. I've hunted a ton on the preserve, and wild birds. They just add a whole nother level of excitement that I didn't get the ability to be exposed to before. Um, and it's a learning curve for the people. It's a learning curve for the dog, and it's so much more rewarding. It really is. When you put in the work to find a spot, and then you go and you see all that training that you put into that dog, come out where you're running. We run Brittany's. You're running that Brittany, and it's 100 yards out there, and all of a sudden you just see it slam on point, and man, it just gets your heart going, and it's just there's nothing like it. I mean, that's I mean, I was sold on the training and the dogs before, and being exposed to that, man, I was sold on it all. I was like, I want to do all this.
Right.
I want to go here. I want to, it just opened up a whole can of worms where I was like, okay, I haven't done this yet. That's on the bucket list now. It was just something I hadn't experienced, and getting the ability to is just awesome.
Checking off that bucket list. I hear some dangerous words that I can relate to a lot of this. Yeah, that can be
he's,
that can be
nine-
dangerous.
he's 19 and has a bucket list.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like I didn't really kind of hit that bucket list or that adventure desire till I was like 30, and I can only imagine doing it when I was 19, 20, and
But-
really not a care in the world.
but if you did, just think about it. You're not tied down. That's the time to chase it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know.
No, absolutely. I wish that I was doing that at 20 as opposed to what I was really doing when I was 20. Elizabeth, what about you? Have you wild bird hunted or?
I mainly like watching the dogs work. So being at the hunting preserve, it didn't matter to me if we were hunting wild birds. I've never tried it, so maybe I would have the same experience as James and get out there and then have that desire. But
It's not exciting for flushing dogs.
I will help you out on this though. It is exciting when you have the pointing dog, flushing dog combo.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's
Especially
right.
down in Texas when you're dealing with some of that gnarly brush cover,
Yeah.
mesquites, and they got
Yep.
some nasty stuff down there. So that's just when you go down there and you take your sister out there. And
That's
and-
right.
There
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
go.
Yeah. So I want to know, where did the Llewellyns stop for you? If you're competing with Llewellyns early on, it sounds like you're on full on the Brittany train again. Where did the Llewellyns come in, and when did they leave, and when did you hop back on just the pure Brittany train?
So I guess my dad met Greg and Carla Fryer at a seminar, and they kind of got him going on Llewellyn's.
well, see, we wanted our own dogs. Like
Mhm.
when I asked Dad if I could get a dog, and then I got a Brittany, and then my sister wanted a dog, but Dad was like, "Hold on, we can't have this many Brittany's. Like we don't need that for our breeding program. We can't." So he met Carla and Greg
Yeah.
and the
At,
Llewellyns.
at a Rick Smith seminar.
Yep.
Yeah.
Go figure.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
It's funny how that works.
Yep, and we, those were us kids' dogs. We got Llewellyns, and we competed them and trained them and all. And my dad bred a couple litters of them. And after us kids got older and graduated, and we weren't, my sisters and my brother, they really didn't have a need for dogs anymore. They took a different route. They went off to college, and so my dad was like, well, let's just get back into the Brittany's. And I just always had a love for the Brittany's. I enjoy all good dog breeds.
Yeah.
But the Brittany's just have a soft spot. They're beautiful dogs, and I guess it probably came from my dad. But
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's funny, sometimes when mom and dad do something, you kind of want to do something similar, but you also want to put your own spin or
Spin on it.
flavor on it, and then you always kind of come back and fall into
yeah,
line, so to speak.
So the girls' first trial, I don't know if you remember that really rainy. It was, you guys are just little girls, and they go out and they get first and second place, and they're drenched. Their dogs are drenched. They go up to the podium and they're holding their dogs. We can't see them, so we stack dog food bags up for them to stand on so we can see their heads over their dogs. And the third place guy didn't even show up because the little girls beat him.
Oh, wow. Talk about ego and punch to the ego.
As a dad, I'm just there going, yeah, you girls rock
do
this.
it.
Yeah.
It goes back to you giving them the puppy, their dog, earlier on, make them stand a
Yeah,
little tall and
exactly.
go
Right.
get it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, something that I like to do on this podcast as we wrap up all these episodes is I like to kind of let the guests take it to where they want and ask, what's something I should have asked you guys that I didn't?
Oh, boy.
Well, I think you did answer or ask the question, but one of the things that, coming from my background and experience, is young kids need to be able to get out and experience nature. Our kids did not just get raised on dogs and birds, they deer hunt. We also go ice fishing. We go fishing in the summer. I mean, we embraced nature and gave them that experience so they could find what they really like to do. My Elizabeth's twin does not like to deer hunt. And she likes to fish like her grandma. Throw the, line out. and
Without a
reel up.
worm on it. Without a worm on
Without
it.
a
Yeah,
worm
yeah.
on it.
That way nothing bites, doesn't interrupt
Yep,
her book.
doesn't
Oh, I got
you
you.
know? But we gave them that experience, and that's what young kids today need. They
Yeah.
need to get out in the nature, and they need to be able to build tree houses or
Get
forts
dirty,
or-
skin knees.
know-
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, just teaching them that they're capable. The kids are capable of so much.
Yep.
And then teach them to respect like what they're hunting. I don't know if you remember, James, but I always taught them that if you kill it, you eat it. You take care of it. And we were out and a skunk got in the yard and I shot it. I don't remember if it was Christian or James, but they turned around and said, I'm not hungry.
I was going to say, who ate the skunk?
Yeah,
Did
no,
you live by it?
Yeah, I think a coyote got that one.
Oh, okay.
So-
Convenient.
But I mean, right, we're to the point now that we deer hunt as a family, and then after season we get together. Well, we got together just a couple weeks ago, and then we make our venison sausage and brats, and so it's from the field to the table, and
And
just,
that's also brought us more friends.
yeah, we
Yeah.
got friends jumping in on it now, and gave Ronnie some of the sausage, Ronnie Smith, and he's like, I'm coming up next year. I want to learn how to do this. So
Yeah.
it's just a way to increase the awareness, and you don't have to go pay somebody else to take care of your stuff.
No,
Hmm.
it's just leading a lifestyle that's actually fulfilling,
Yeah,
and
it's
instead
just
of distracting and just entertaining, it's fulfillment. It's hard work, but making venison sausage and all that. I mean, it's
Yeah.
hard work, but you get something on the back end, and I'm not just talking about the meat either.
it might
Hmm.
not be perfect, but it tastes perfect.
Right, right.
And the relationship and the skill that you build in your own family doing all these things, it's there's nothing compared to it.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I just want to put
absolutely.
a plug in for Christian and Jane, or
Oh
Christian and
yeah.
Haley who aren't here. Haley, my twin sister, she can train a dog. She knows how. It's not her first choice. She wouldn't, but
She has a
she
dog
she
now.
like mom. She would be there taking pictures for everyone. She's
Mhm.
inside making a cheesecake to bring out to the guys to eat. So, she found her own little place and how
Nice.
to serve and work within the family. And James does the training. Christian's passion is the hunting preserve, so he
Uh,
would give up anything to go out
well,
and guide for someone and put birds out and
he
come
has
home and help dad.
such a passion for introducing people to the outdoors.
Yes.
Hmm.
And
He's
then
he's going to college, and he's wrestling in college, and he's got teammates from Illinois that have no idea how to fish, and he's taking them out teaching them to ice fish.
Hmm.
If you want to learn how to do something outside, Christian's your guy.
yep. And
Eh,
so they're both vital to this
Oh
operation.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then our grandparents, just grandpa, when he could, he would come out and help put birds out.
You
And
know,
when mom and dad needed to go do something or work on the farm, grandma and grandpa would watch us. They live a mile away from us. So just the whole family. My husband, he hops in and throws birds. He wasn't raised hunting. He was raised farming, but he's best friends with my brothers, and they
Yeah.
just go out
yeah.
hunting and put birds out. And so it just really is a family thing, and we couldn't do without our
I,
family.
I wish my parents were here to talk about this too, because from their perspective, being able to work the land, they farmed it. I helped farm it, and then see it evolve to this. They had their hands in getting dirty, helping us, and I mean, there was times where there was 3 generations out working to preserve for people.
That's
How
cool.
often does that happen in anything today?
Right.
And when we planted 300 trees?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Grandpa was out there. The
We
trees
were
were
all out
Grandpa's
there.
baby. He was
yeah,
out there checking on them.
every
Like,
day.
yep.
Yeah.
So I
That's
mean,
cool.
it's
James, you got anything else that you wanted to throw out?
Man, it's just, throughout it all, no one was ever told that you can't do something. We were just encouraged to try and do our best at it. And, my dad starting the preserve, no one, my grandpa wasn't like, no, you can't do that. Um, chase your dream, man. That's what it is. I had a dream for it, and, I wrestled with it. I was like, is it the safe choice? And my dad was like, well, you can always go back to the safe choice.
Yeah.
And so chase your dream while you can. And
I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me.
Amen.
that's right. Yeah.
Well, I can say I've barely known you guys for longer than an hour, but you guys are inspiring, and I talk all the time about how we grow our community, and it comes through, in my opinion, leading by example, taking the new people hunting, sharing our passions, passing on the words of wisdom, any of the lessons that we do, and I think that you guys are the epitome of that, and I
Thank
can
you.
see why Rick wanted, you got to talk to these guys, and I'm glad they did. As we wrap this up, where do people find you? I'll have the links to y'all's website and everything in the show notes. But if y'all have anything to plug for the preserve, have at it.
Yeah, we're down in Leroy, Minnesota. Like my dad said, 45 minutes south of Rochester. You can find us on Instagram and Facebook at Three Arrows Hunting Preserve and
Ben's
Three Arrows
Brittany's.
Ben's Brittany's Three Arrows Kennels on the Instagram. And yeah, we enjoy helping people and doing what we can to give back. So
Awesome. Well, y'all have to stay in touch, and especially you two. I want to hear how the training careers develop and unfold, and maybe next time we'll get Hannah and Christian.
Haley.
Haley
Yep.
and Christian.
Yep.
Again, I told you at the start of this.
Yeah, that's all right. You did
I'll
good.
remember the dogs' names, but people's names.
We understand.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I enjoyed it, guys. I know you guys got to get back to your booth and actually drum up some business, what you guys came here for, but I'm glad that we made some time.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.